according to the cloud now. Everybody, welcome to the second TSC meeting for the Baseline Protocol community. It looks like we have a couple of, one guest. Who's, oh, Nate, right. Hey, Nate. We got Nick Kritikos as a guest, and we shall proceed. So we did introductions last week. And as you probably have seen, we have posted the TSC and the SSC meeting to Zoom, where by the grace of God, we can hit 2x speed and zip through it. That's my favorite thing about taping these things. And we are making pretty good progress. Thank you to Brian Chamberlain and to Karthik Solapuram, who are both on the call, for in advance for having worked so hard on getting our maintainer rules and practices started. We have ways to go still, but they should be thanked for the work that they did on that. I'm going to share my screen and take you all over to the TSC page. Hang on for a second. And I'm still having window challenges. Hold on for a second. There it is. All right, so this is the second meeting. Our agenda, we will review the draft maintainer docs that Brian and Karthik worked on. We're going to review prospective maintainer candidates and set action to appoint at least 2 more to the maintainer team by this Wednesday. And we will do a working session where we will basically run a quiet moment for 20 minutes, perhaps as little as 15 minutes if people make good time on it, where we will where we can use chat to chunk out some brainstorming without blocking each other on conversation. And we have an incentive program conversation to work out, and then we need to decide the next meeting. Does anybody else have an agenda item that we should add?
Actually, I just thought of one. So we have, okay, never mind. We don't need it. We have a baseline group for this, right? I'm just blanking on this in Slack.
A baseline group for which?
Sorry, a channel in the baseline Slack for TSC. Do we have a private one or just a public one?
We have a public one, easy enough to put up a private one. Haven't done it yet.
Okay, I just don't know if we even need it. I just thought of that real quick.
Yeah, hey, while we're kind of walking through this, would you like to go over there and create that one?
Sure, I think I can. Yeah, I'm able to.
Everybody should be able to. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
I didn't even know we had a public one. I'll have to join that one.
We do have a public one. I don't think it's being used to a great extent yet. The hope was that people would add. I think I put it up to have people nominate themselves and communicate to the TSC, so that anybody could do that.
So this is going to be a private channel, and I'll just take the TSC members and add them. Does that sound like how we should do it here?
That sounds perfect.
Cool.
I have a potential agenda item, but it also could be a chat discussion. I guess it is technical and involves some steering, so it seems appropriate to bring it up here. But for infrastructure related to the project, specifically the next kind of big chunk of work we want to get out of to help improve the stability of Baseline as a continuous integration server, so we can run that for every pull request that is going against master to make sure we're running all the tests and all that fun stuff. And then we're also going to add potentially some automatic code style linting kind of thing too. So those will be the two primary checkpoints that are required for every PR, in addition to the standard like 3 approvals from people in the code owners list. So the question is around the CI system. I'm chatting with Jory about the process for getting something like that up. And my understanding is the TSC we all should pick or approve what type of system we use. Like this is ideally be a hosted system, so we don't have to do it ourselves. So something like Travis or Circle CI. And just wanted to float to the TSC that concept that like we want to do that. And if anyone has any strong thoughts or opinions about a particular
what about
hosted.
GitHub Actions looks pretty cool.
Okay, is it possible to run a full CI pipeline with GitHub Actions? I have seen it. Yeah, so I know one of the projects that I've seen recently is doing it, and it seems to be a full pipeline. Yeah. Okay.
I believe so. We can at least look into it. I think that's a good. I think it may look a bit better than like Circle CI.
Really?
We can make that assessment together.
Okay. Yeah, that would be surprising to me. But
Circle's nice. Yeah, Circle's nice. It's just really tightly coupled or tightly integrated with GitHub, so it's pretty nice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of buddy systems. So, Brian, I know you're already working with Jory, but Kyle, would you want to buddy up with Brian on this matter? I know you're a pretty big DevOps guy.
Yeah, be happy to.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, my only concern at a high level is that I don't want the CI system to be its own project. That's why I like it. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I know there is a fair amount of maintenance in it. It is something that is not as easy as set and forget because code changes. Yeah. So, but
we're on the same page there for sure.
Well, speaking of that, speaking of the matter of projects, I took the liberty of setting up a straw man for that sort of thing.
Wow.
We could add a CI right here. So we could say set up CI tools and server, right?
Yeah, and I guess from the TSC, is there anything procedurally we need? My understanding was, I think if we're going to use a hosted service that requires resources, then we get them donated or somehow, because we do have a pretty extensive test suite. It requires quite a bit of resources, which costs money. So, that's kind of once we set it up, like who's going to pay for it? So we're looking at services that could provide free or some amount of free to open source projects. So that's the other TSC concerns. I guess I don't know how the approval would work for paying or getting funds to pay for that, or maybe we can't pay for it and then we have to engineer a different way. You know what I mean? So anyone has any thoughts or experience with that, I want to add that as an agenda item. We can talk about.
I think GitHub Actions may be semi-free, like free for some period of time to open source. I'm not sure.
Does it include the hosting? Because we basically need to run the equivalent of the Docker containers with all the different hosts and everything for every PR, and it does go through the CKP compute process. So 16 gigs of RAM spun up in parallel multiple times. Like, that's the other part of it. It's like the money side.
Okay. I'm just gonna bang this in, and breakpointer is as I recall, yes. And Kyle, you are
K Thomas.
Huh?
K Thomas.
K
Thomas. I believe. My GitHub name?
There you are. There you are. Yep, got it. All right, good.
Yeah.
I'll leave this to you guys then, and we'll move on, shall we?
Sounds good.
Let's. I put this as. Let's see where I put that. Yeah, put this as a say nominally by this time next week. Do you think is that a good time frame for getting CI up, or do you think we can? What's a critical path for that?
Investigating our options, figuring out how much they're going to cost, and then if what we can get for free as an open source project, and then where the gaps are in that. That's kind of in my mind. So I think it would probably take a week for us to get to that.
So it's kind of like a spike for a week, and then we can do some actions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
setting it up is fairly straightforward. It's all the administrative stuff is tricky, and who's going to post it anyway. So it's,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah, I think the
great thing is
financial
that-
piece.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, the financial piece is sort of the wild card.
I'll say that again, it's a delight to work with Oasis. They have the ability to get some of the stuff. They have never had a problem getting this stuff. They can get it for free when it's possible, and they do have some kind of a budget for something, I think. But bottom line is, I think working with Jory will make short work of that. And you're correct about the issue, right? Until we do some fundraising, which won't happen until a little bit later, certainly, the April, May time, May, June, July timeframe, I should say, that we don't have any real funds in the community to manage. I will say that this was a topic for a little bit later. We will want to start tin cupping for. I will putting together a presentation on what sponsorship would look like past May 31st, and it does turn out that Oasis has a wonderful facility for, as a nonprofit, handling basically community funds that are designated for community things. So we have a facility for doing that. We don't have like set up a trust fund or something to handle it and deal with governance. Oasis handles all that. So we can create dues and membership there's a core sponsorship for Oasis projects that we're going to want to consider after May 31st when the money for the current project runs out. Talking to Microsoft, Joe Lubin, and some other folks about that. Joe, EEA, and EF currently fund the project that is housing us until the end of May. They may or may not re-up. And even if they do re-up by May 31st, we may want to, in fact, we certainly do want to, once we've determined that this is mission critical for lots of companies, to say, hey, lots of companies, you should be, you should be in here. It's not a lot of money. It's like $15K if you've got 2,000 people, and it's $25K for anything above that, and it goes down to pretty low numbers. And then, of course, you don't have to pay anything at all to still be a contributor and to be involved. So it's pretty nice. But we can also pay more than that. We can raise more money than the core dues and have Oasis manage it for specific things like hackathons. And I'm getting ahead of myself. That was not the next thing on the agenda. Let me just close out the agenda question to say, is there anything else that people want to put on the agenda before we move on to the next topic?
Yeah, how do you integrate Zen? Or I don't see the ZenHub tab, and I don't see anywhere in the documentation about how to get that there.
Oh, ruh-roh. You're not seeing the ZenHub tab.
Yeah. Is anyone else seeing it who's never worked with ZenHub before?
You need to install the Chrome extension or whatever browser you're using. So it's a Chrome extension, like a small plugin, and he recognizes the account you're logged in at GitHub. And as soon as he recognizes them, he will show the ZenHub tab.
Perfect. All right. I can update the README for that. So that doesn't need to be an agenda item. That you don't even need to put it on there. It's solved.
In fact, Hudson, I will fix that.
Okay, cool.
You've got lots of other things I know you want to do, and I seem to have the easiest time changing docs right now. Brian and I are working, and Karthik and I are working on merging docs, the docs branch into master, flipping the docs system over to master. And once we do that, then anybody can merge or can just change an MD and it will get into docs once it's approved. But until we do that, it's a bit hinky. So I can make the change. Brian,
I merged it in just a few minutes ago.
Oh.
So you can, whenever you get around to it, switch over on Gitbooks to point to master.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks, Brian. Well done. You're way ahead of me then. So all right. So, but Hudson, I'll still take it. Just
Okay, sounds good.
let me make a note. What did I just say I would do? JW.
Add something about ZenHub to the README.
Add ZenHub. I thought, I think I was lulled into a false sense of confidence on that. I thought that I tested this with a browser that didn't have ZenHub installed and I still saw it and I was like, aha, great, it's in there for everybody, but apparently not.
Yeah, and you can go to ZenHub directly if you are anti-installing browser plugin type. ZenHub does have a hosted view of the issues from GitHub in a web view, so that's also an option too.
So you can go to ZenHub blah blah, right? I think what you just replace GitHub with ZenHub, is that right?
I'm not. That would ideally. I don't know if that's actually. Try it. See, I don't remember.
Yeah, I've forgotten. I haven't done it in so long.
Yeah.
You know what? Not right now. Do it later. Okay. So so that's another item. Anything else? So we will be publishing these. By the way, yeah, go ahead. Nate, was that you?
Oops, nope, I didn't mean to hit unmute. My bad.
Yeah, right. Oops, I'm in the SSC one. It's a long morning for me. I got the TSC, then the SSC. All right, let me check that out. Okay, so review draft maintainer docs. Brian, are you ready for us to look through those, or do you need some time, or do we want a special session?
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, let's look through them if you want, or we could make it async so people can kind of look through them at their leisure and make comments in the pull request. Anyone who has access to GitHub, which should be everybody on the TSC, can make a comment on it.
Okay, so let's take an action item that obviously we won't go through it all today, but let's just maybe get 5 minutes of the highlights, and then let's try to see if where we might have some gaps. So by the way, good on you that you started with Code of Conduct. I read it through and I thought it was pretty good. But before we get clicking on that, I will say, here's an action item for everyone. Please read maintainer docs.
Yeah, it'd be good to just, this is my first attempt at writing a maintainer doc, so actually had a lot of help from John and Karthik, but I'd like to tap the collective knowledge of everyone in the group to think about the corner cases that might come up from people's experiences and things.
Yep, agreed. So so then we have what do maintainers do, which I thought was good. Who are the current maintainers? I am a maintainer in just functional capability only. I won't be doing any code merges, but I think I do have the ability to do it. So that's why I'm there, and I will do docs merges. How to become a maintainer? I think that's a really interesting question for everyone. I've been wanting to come up with some kind of a, forgive the anachronism, but some kind of a merit badge system, for the whole community to say, hey, this is do this, and you get this merit badge, and the community will trust you with this sort of thing. Anybody have any thoughts about that? Connor, you've done a lot of this sort of thing before. Do you have thoughts about?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us anyway, when it comes to maintainers, I think one of the most important things is to see persistence over time, because always the risk, you know, a lot of the time with the open source anyway, what you see is, you know, people come involved, come onto the project, they'll start scratching around, you know, they might submit some really good pull requests, make some great contributions, but then, you know, over time they kind of, you know, vanish and are no longer sort of in the picture. So I think that would be one of the key things is, you know, you want people who are actually going to be committed. It's not that it's like a passing phase because, you know, they're interested in finding out about baseline, they're trying to run the example, found some areas to make improvements, and then, you know, then they go on to the next thing. So that would be the biggest one to me. In terms of actually having some sort of you know, metrics that you can track. I mean, you know, I find with open source, like, you know, it's pretty easy to spot the people who are having an impact, because you'll see, you know, their names will pop up again and again, or there'll be, you know, multiple pull requests against their names or multiple comments. And so
Connor, you cut out there for a second.
Black and white as such, but I think that those are, you know, a couple of
Connor cut out for anybody other than me?
Yeah, he cut out.
Okay. Connor, forgive us. We'll come back, but I think you're
yeah, I'll put a couple of notes on chat now on the TSC.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so I'll make sure to look at the chat. We are recording, aren't we? Yes, we are. Are we recording? Yes, we are. Good. All right. So some number of PRs, good. Hudson, you've also had experience with a lot of this. I mean, what would you say works and what doesn't work? What are a couple of things that, you know, like pitfalls?
You know, actually, I have not gone deeply into a maintainer role, but I will say from, I guess, a community contribution role, yeah, the name popping up over and over again, persistence over time is a good one. Someone who you can reach out to quickly and that like tagging them in a GitHub issue and they get back to you. So responsive, yeah.
Yep. Anything else?
That's the only thing that comes to mind for me right now. Anybody else?
One of the things that we didn't get done at Consensus, but what I really wanted to do was this notion of I think we wrote about it something called Hey Pi, where we had a kind of a Slack tool that allowed people to you know, basically award each other points, and the crazy idea was that the points would be actually a share, a non-transferable interest in a trust. So, you know, you could fund a trust fund, and if you had 10 points and there were 100 points, then you had 1/10. You had basically a bearer right to 1/10 of the trust. But you know, it could be other kind of goodness. So you could say, you know, on a sprint, I did this work and I deserve 10 points, and somebody could say, no, you only deserve 2, and other, you know, et cetera. Whatever the average is, you get those points. You could also do that for kind of a net promoter score for people. You say, hey, I'm dealing with this guy and he's not responsive. I'm going to bring his rating down. But I only say that as a directional thing. Obviously, I don't think we don't have the bandwidth to build that. But if it inspires anybody to think of ways to create a kind of data-driven regime for some of these things, that'd be cool.
I thought of one more maintainer thing, self-motivated. And then in response to what you just said, I think it'd be really cool if we built something that was built on baseline, that was for contributors of this repository, like you said, that's like an incentive point system, so that it hooks into the mainnet, and whenever a pull request is merged using an oracle the stats are updated on mainnet and point values are assigned based on discussion with the TSC. We're not going to do that anytime soon, but I thought that'd be a cool thing to do, because I think that'd be like using Baseline and showing off what, the Chainlink Oracle solution within Baseline, and then a couple of the other tools that would be needed to make that kind of point system.
Right on, right on. Yeah, it's a forever dream of mine that we get to something like that. One of these days, I'll start an organization that actually does it. Okay, moving on to where's my? Yeah, man. It's always I don't know about you guys, but I have an endless battle with Chrome tabs in Windows. And okay, so the agenda. Review prospective maintainer candidates. Okay, so Brian, do you have any other anything? What are some key salient attributes of the maintainer docs that you want everybody to be sure to know and understand as we're going through it? Are there things that you want us to are there big gaps here that you want to point out?
No, I think we're already sort of talking about some of the areas that are challenging. Is how to pick a maintainer out of the group of people who contribute, and what it means to be a good maintainer over time. And then, the other aspect of it is what happens if someone is a maintainer and they're not responding and they don't, approve pull requests and they kind of ghost. How long do we go before we remove them from the list, and what's the process for that? I think that's probably a harder discussion to have.
It could
so
be
people's thoughts on that.
It could be that the removal process could be very simple. We could use it as a template. We could use the TSC template, put a lot of work into that. So we could look at and see if that's applicable or where it falls down.
I wonder if we want to remove any kind of human discussion. It's like, just off in my mind, so I don't know if it's actually a good idea, but some kind of time-based re-upping where it's like you can be a maintainer for 6 months or a year, whatever your term is, and then as long as you're continuing to have pull requests and be active, you're going to re-up your status. But if you don't, then you just get removed automatically. Something like that, like some kind of fail-safe mechanism. I guess that also implies, does the idea of a tenure make sense for maintainers?
Right on. So terms on maintainers, and then Eric chimed in. Yes, fan of term limits. Obviously balanced against complexity of managing the regime, but I agree with that too. The other one is that we should look at is, what was I just looking at here? Want to be maintained. Oh, indoctrination. I think there ought to be by next week, some kind of regime that says, yes, you've got the merit badge for knowing more or less what the project is about, and that you're not going to turn it in, take it from being whatever it is and turn it into a chicken farm, right? So focus and level setting or alignment. Having achieved, one should only be a maintainer if you've achieved alignment, right? So how do we know that someone is aligned before they become a maintainer?
For me, that's where seeing contributions over time. But in terms of bootstrapping, we obviously don't have the luxury of contributors over time. We just started the project, so we're having this indoctrination, indoctrination sounds so heavy-handed. Onboarding process for maintainers in the early phases of the project, for the bootstrap phase of maintainers, makes a lot of sense to me. But I think, a year from now, once we have a strong community, we'll have maybe this checklist that we use for this bootstrap period. Then that, instead of being sort of hear all the lectures you have to attend. It'll just be checking boxes. Yes, they know that, they know that. A quick 30-minute discussion.
Right on. Yeah. And obviously, yes, for the next two, at least the next two maintainers, we got to get more maintainers, or Brian and Karthik and the team are going to go crazy trying to deal with all the pull requests. And I mean, we're pretty active by early standards, but even by any standard, we're seeing a lot of stuff come in. Brian, Karthik, are you kind of treading water now? I mean, how are you guys handling the load? It's starting to get tough.
No, I mean, it's good. It's encouraging to see a lot of people jump in, and I mean, it's exciting. I'm happy to see so many people join in and help. It's a good amount, I think, at this point. I guess going back to the CI discussion, that's kind of why I have some issue with getting that, or want to make that a priority in the near term, is because every pull request, if it's technical, requires checking out the branch, making sure the tests still run. These are things that a computer can do without me babysitting the process. So it's okay, at least I think it's okay now, but as we scale, it's going to quickly become not okay, and there's still wasting my time.
Yeah, agreed.
You know what I mean?
But even with that, it can become quite a chore for a small group to be reviewing and approving merges, especially right now we're at 3, right? We need 3 approvers.
Yeah, that's been tricky, because if someone wants to take the weekend off, then everything gets held up over the weekend until someone comes back and approves.
Well, that means
it.
we have to have 3/4 of the people that we currently have approve.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot. Yeah. So would anyone like to move to bring it down to 2? And what are the counter arguments to that? I'm offering that as a prompting for that. If anybody thinks that we ought to bring it down to 2 for the short term.
I think it'd be okay. I just think we would just need to be very diligent about checking with code owners, to make sure stuff doesn't get, what do you call it, a chicken farm?
Yes. Well, it struck me the other day that because we have so few maintainers right now, and we're building that up, and all the maintainers are well aligned, maybe we go to 3 later rather than earlier. Maybe it was a mistake to go early with
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm instigating a conversation. I don't want to end it. That's not for me to answer. It's just for me to pose.
Yeah. That's one lever we could pull, is change it down from 3 to 2. I'd rather not do that. I think the lever, which we're actually pulling this week, is adding another couple of maintainers, and that will help. We can make them code owners to help with the pull requests.
All right, so then
I prefer to go that
on for now.
Go that route. Yeah.
I think they say they who know the most should decide what's best, and if I'm listening, you know the most about this situation right now. And if you're saying not move to 2, then I say that we move on to another topic. That's good.
I mean, unless Karthik has anything to
add. I think 3 does make sense. I think the main thing we were looking for, I think, is diversity in terms of maintainers. Aside from like Brian, me, Sam, and Patrick, who have worked on the original code, who are right now as part of the maintainers, I think generally in terms of pull requests, I do agree with having 3. But one of the things I would like to emphasize is potentially having more number of maintainers, so that there's more diversity in terms of who's reviewing the code as well, and who's able to merge the code to master.
Good. Yeah, agreed. And I'll just say stick with 3. 3 for now. Obviously, if you start getting behind on those merges, then let us know. If definitely the chatter is good. So I mean, don't just grin and bear it. Let people know if you're getting behind. Okay, so if that's, I think that's the maintainers conversation for this week. We have some actions. We're going to deal with the CI by next week. We're gonna have 2 more maintainers, and that's the next thing to talk about. Who are those 2 other maintainers? By the way, Johan, yeah, I'd love to hear. I think we'd all love to hear more. I mean, you from Chainlink, you've done a lot of this stuff, and you have a community. So if there are some best practices from Chainlink, that'd be great to hear.
Yeah, sure. I mean, on the community side, I'll probably try to circle back on this one because right now nothing really comes to mind. But yeah, I'm sure I can get some ideas from the team mostly and let you guys know, because here right now nothing really comes to mind, to be honest.
Understood. Right on. By the way, Chainlink and Unibright and Kyle and Daniel Norkin and those guys, there's just been some really great contribution going on. Stefan, you guys are on fire. Keep it up. Kyle, I think you're the most prolific contributor right now. I may be wrong about that, but it looked like it. So congratulations to that. All right, my embarrassing people part of the agenda is over. And so, okay, so from who would like to nominate a maintainer? You can nominate yourself or someone else. And if nobody does it in the next 7-10 seconds, I'm going to do it.
I'm happy to do some to review pull requests that are and maintain code that's more focused on the zero knowledge side and on the cryptography side.
Right. I think we discussed on the last call that one does not need to be a master at one particular subject, but it is nice to have maintainers who are masters at some subject, and then you can also check in things that are and approve things that are not in your set if you want to go to the masters of that subject, right? Well, that was
yeah, of course.
Extraordinarily poorly said by me just now, but I think you guys. Yep.
I want to nominate myself as like apprentice maintainer. So I don't want to be a full maintainer just because I've been so ingrained in non-tech stuff for a number of years since I worked at a bank doing mainframe without GitHub using some crappy IBM tool that, yeah, I need to get more acclimated to this.
Given what you would be apprenticing on, which isn't mastery of architecture and code, but rather how to do maintaining, I think that's
that's pretty much it.
Yeah, it ain't that hard to learn.
Okay, yeah, you can put me down, and I'll just make sure that I ask as much questions as I can if I don't understand something, and make sure I'm not just stifling myself.
Okay. Well, those are 2 pretty big names there. Who else? Maintainers. 6, 5, 4, 3. All right, I'm nominating Kyle. I've been watching the work. Brian, Karthik, I think I've heard your comments on you've been impressed with the work. Incredible amount of dedication, very responsive, and
Thank you.
And he didn't even pay me to say that. So
I'm happy to be
I
here.
will take payment. I mean, I'm not against.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
I say +1 for Kyle from Stefan. That's a pretty big plus in my view, because one of the other most committed people I've seen is Stefan. So Kyle.
Yeah, happy to help.
Who else? Kyle, you can step back. You don't have to take it.
No, I'm good. I'm happy to help.
Anybody? I guess it's pretty hard to ask people to dissent. It would be hard to. So All right. Well, yeah, we have a process for that. So, you know, if all right. So that's 3. Stefan, you don't want to nominate yourself. Johan, you have anybody on the Chainlink side you want to?
Yeah, basically for me, it's about sorting out how my and our commitment would be sorted out best. And I think I just need perhaps until the next TSC meeting, because we also have these hackathons going on and we try to contribute at the same time. So yeah, please have understanding that I need some days to work out the role where I could be the best for the project.
I wanted to see 2. We have 3 on the list here, and obviously you guys are doing a lot of contributing. So, I just wanted to make sure that you got the honor of opting for it.
Thanks.
Johan, same thing with you guys.
Yeah, it's a bit similar to Stefan. I need to check back with the team, so I'm probably going to start bringing on a bit more people on my side to make sure we can support as we should, you know. So yeah, but probably next week. Let's hold on till next week.
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of offers from your community to help with things like, like community promotion and stuff like that, which was, just people coming out of the woodwork offering to help. I don't know what you guys feed that community, but it is one of the most amazing things. Very, very committed people and quite impressive. All right, so same with Unibright. Okay, those are 3. We could just achieve loose consensus. Let's see, what game can we play here? If I don't see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If I don't see 8 pluses in the next 10 seconds, we will go to another method of selection. But if you put a plus in, you're saying all 3 of those are good.
If we were in person at like an IEEE conference, we could hum. Anyone else look up that stuff? I find it fascinating.
That is awesome. Yeah. All right, I think that's 8. So we have 3 new maintainers. Karthik, you wanna do the honors of getting these guys in?
Yep, I can do that.
You'll probably want to reach out. Given that this is a public meeting, I won't put. I guess I already did put GitHub identities already up on screen there. Yeah. So Zach, Hudson, and Kyle. All right. Welcome to the maintainer group, guys. I'm going to move on. I think we're going to be running out of time for the activity I was hoping to do, but that'll be okay. We can do it another time, and I'm trying to find the darn screen again. Okay, there we go. Review prospective maintainer candidates. Working session, we'll skip over that to the incentive programs, methods, and practices. There is a hackathon by Gitcoin at the beginning of June. And there is also, I think I mentioned earlier, we will have to start thinking about funding stuff if we want to do that. I mean, the community doesn't, strictly speaking, doesn't need that, but it's usually good to have some kind of reasonable war chest for things and a way of distributing incentive opportunities. Gitcoin seems to be the way to do it nowadays. Does anybody have any other thoughts about this? Johan, you guys do a lot of incentive programs, I think, over in Chainlink.
Yeah, I think it would actually make quite a lot of sense to do something like this. I think with the current market conditions too, like being able to participate in stuff like Gitcoin grants and, hackathons like this one, it makes complete sense and it fits well with the current conditions. I think it will be very well perceived, and usually a lot of great stuff can come up from it. So that's something I would definitely encourage.
Right on. I will bring this up on the SSC as well. And it is let me see if I'm looking for it here. Yeah, so the Gitcoin folks called up over last week and said we could work out a mid-June sponsorship tier for this upcoming event where we would be a feature of the event. But we could also create a Gitcoin hackathon for the baseline protocol itself, where we can tin cup the sponsorship, and which is like about 15K to do something like that. And then we could also host a mainnet for, we could work with maybe the mainnet working group to widen that to be just mainnet for the enterprise hackathon. Those were the 3 suggestions they had. I'm not going to go beyond this. I just wanted to, this was a kind of a PSA this week. I don't think there's anything we have to decide upon right now, but I'm soliciting input regarding that over the next week, and we can decide things later. Sound good?
Sounds good to me, yeah.
All right.
Yep, sounds great.
And then this is the Oasis open. There are different levels, and like I said, I think that as we get into the summer and as more companies, and I mean there's a lot of big companies that are, I mean, pick a bank and they've called, and people are getting really frothy about what we're doing. It's astounding. So I suspect that we'll have a lot of companies be moving into this space and working with us. And as that happens, then sponsorship becomes a real thing that we can do, and we might be able to build a pretty good war chest for incentive programs and other things. But that's for another day. I'm just kind of getting everybody ready for that conversation when it becomes a relevant thing, which is not today. Decide next meeting and time. Let's do that. Do we want to go next week, same time, same place, or do we want to go 2 weeks at this point?
I'm okay with one more weekly meeting and then maybe 2 weeks after that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, I'd be in
Right.
favor of 1 week.
Very well. So shall it be done. So I'll put that in next week. Next Monday? Same time?
Yeah, I mean, it's fine with me.
Great. Awesome. All right, we'll do that. Now, we've got 9 minutes left. Let's call it 7 minutes or 5, and we'll give ourselves a few minutes early. And let's talk about the projects, shall we? Is there, yeah, I think we've got all the other agenda items done. Rather than do the brainstorm that I was going to propose, I want to just take you guys through what I did here this today and over the weekend to see if you have some comments about it. This is heavily to do with the SSC, in fact, but also here for the TSC. So we've got the cross-industry use case. So I've just created a bunch of projects here in ZenHub. This is a relatively new feature in ZenHub. I kind of like it because it doesn't clutter up the actual issues and the GitHub set. So these are new objects that only ZenHub has, and you can create them and destroy them pretty easily. So I created some projects, and for all of them, most of them, I just put it, from now till June 1. And I just flipped them out pretty quickly. So here's a system of record integration tools, Oracle services, so I think that there are some spike epics that can go in here. We might want to have some way of designating a spike in the epics. I don't have a standard for that. Brian, do you have any thought on that? Put spike in the title, or
yeah, spike in the title. It's usually what I do.
Yeah, let's do that. I mean, labels are too much.
Let's just do it in the title.
Okay, so unfortunately, you can't go below this this level in the projects view. is something I don't like. So I mean, you can get a project and a set of top level epics inside the project. But that's nice because you can chunk out really, the big topic areas, and then you have to go into these and create new issues and then designate them as epics and then nest them inside the other epics, which is probably the only thing I don't like about this. But it's not so bad that it's worth going to some other tool and dealing with that. Like Asana's good at that, but I don't want to deal with that right now. And I'm betting that.
Yeah, and everyone gripes about their project management tool, so it's
let's stick
universal that you're going to find things you don't like.
Yeah. So, and I do not want. I don't think anybody wants to have that conversation. So, if this just becomes too terrible, we'll figure it out. But for now,
So John, what is the desired level, if I may ask, of detail that you want to achieve here? Is it more about the scheduling and time planning, or is it also about detailed tasks? For example, I would like a clear, to distinguish clearly between what, for example, Unibright has to do on their end, because it's of course more a product end, and what's in it for the open source part of the protocol. So what is the level of detail you would like to see here?
Well, I'm betting that most of us here are object-oriented, kind of cut our teeth on object-oriented stuff, right? So, and what's the basic lesson of object-oriented? Is that you come out of the gate, learning object-oriented programming, and everything is abstracted like 17 layers, right? And it becomes a mess that way. But if you didn't have any object orientation, you write everything in one function. So somewhere between those two things. So there's a lot of layers. Epics can go infinitely nested, I think. But so, for example, inside add baselining to Truffle, there you could imagine a whole bunch of different projects within that, and then projects or components or epics within those epics.
Okay, just for an example, I would understand that within the system of record integration, we would need a more generic epic, like providing the right APIs for any integrator, and then the Unibright services could be another epic within that project. But on top level, there would be some more architectural epics to work on first. That's actually what we are currently doing and trying to do together with Kyle, also from Provide. But if we are able to add these kind of epics as well, then I can also come up with a proposal for a hierarchy and structuring.
Yes, I think. Look, I think that you and Johan and Kyle and a few other folks are really the experts in the system of record integration. I think Eric's got some chops in there as well. So yeah, I think this is the week to start really buddying up and getting some work done on in terms of structuring this, so that through the week and then next week in particular, we can really release the Kraken, as it were, and start to publicize to people, hey, here's a project. Here's a project. You can add a project, but here's a bunch of them already to get your creative juices flowing.
Understood.
And they can be well articulated. So just, go right in here. Feel free to structure this, the SOR integration tools project the way you guys want. And I figure, it'll norm out, right? So you can make a change, other people can make a change to your change, et cetera, et cetera. You can get together and say, hey, we're running amok. Let's get at least an asynchronous meeting or a synchronous meeting together and do it. Okay. And the other thing that isn't here are, nobody has, except for one, I think, has, I think we assigned Brian to the maintainer or the maintainer governance stuff. And Kyle, we don't have people's names on any of these items. Feel free to put your name on it.
So I have a quick point on the task or the epic or project, I guess, where you have listed as add baseline to Truffle. There is one issue, just like a placeholder issue I created for better smart contract management at the release of the project. It's issue number 19 on the issue list. That was intended to capture somewhat similar process of having better, more robust way of managing smart contracts and using them as baseline components for importable contract libraries or importable contract components. I can look further into it, as I've been getting a lot of pings from others as well in the community, especially from people from Etherline, who have expressed a lot of interest and also direction in terms of the architecture of management of smart contracts. I can take this up a little further and discuss with maintainers as well as the people who have been proposing me about this, if that makes sense.
Okay. I'm adding an epic titled Importable Smart Contracts. I'm putting your name in parens. And you could add, you could just go in and link the issues to that you, or you can change it around, but just as a placeholder, I'm putting it in. And I'm partly just to show everybody how this works. And by the way, I mean, that may not just be a truffle-oriented, project-oriented thing, nor does it need to be, right? I mean, the issue is the issue.
That's right.
Yeah. Another quick question just before we're at time, but is there going to, is there going to be a project manager type role that will help facilitate between like the SSC, the TSC, and the maintainers? Or John, are you going to do that, or is there someone else who's?
I would very much like to see somebody step up to do that, and I think we'll grow into it. I guess I'm working that job for now,
Okay.
but I really do believe in the buddy system. So I mean, you and Karthik are buddies, and now you've got another buddy with Kyle. Stefan and Johan, I think are buddies. Yeah, buddy system. So I'd love to have a buddy on the project management side. Unfortunately, our project manager for Ernst & Young, is from Ernst & Young, cannot be the official project manager of this for independence reasons, because they're an auditor, as you know. So just officially, so he can't provide that role, although he's very much engaged in supporting the program otherwise. So yeah, we can't use our good friend Brian for that.
Okay.
Just an additional point. I'll look into the ZK service made production ready component, just in terms of the project itself. When possible, I'll discuss as Zach gets time about further improvising the components of ZK service in the overall repo itself. Very well.
We are out of time. We will publish this, and I encourage everybody to walk through these projects and go, hey, you're missing one, and write it in there. And ping me if you have any trouble with that. Without further anything else, last words.
Thanks, John.
All right, we'll see everybody
Thanks.
next week.
See everybody.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Cheers. Bye.